Some people will tell you that the law of Yahweh did not exist until the time of Moses. It was said to me recently that the Ten Commandments were not in Genesis. That's just factually untrue. The Bible explicitly tells us that Abraham kept Yahweh's statutes and laws. In the Hebrew there, one of those words is Torah, the same word that is used all throughout the books of Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy.
Right here in Genesis 26:5, Isaac is blessed because Abraham listened to my Yahweh's voice and kept my mandate, my commands, my statutes, and my instructions. In Genesis 2:2-3, we have the Sabbath command. In Genesis 4:3 and 4, we have offerings of fruit and offerings from the flock and the fat portions thereof. In Genesis 7, verse 2, and also chapter 8, verse 20, we have the law of clean and unclean animals. Here in Genesis chapter 8, over here in verse 20, we have offerings of worship and the building of altars. Also see Genesis 12, verse 8. In Genesis 9:4, we have the law against eating the blood of an animal. In Genesis 9:5-6, we have a law about capital punishment against a murderer. In Genesis 18, verse 19, we have a law about parental authority, honoring parents. In Genesis 34, we have a law against a man taking another man's daughter without his permission. In Genesis 39, verse 9, we have the law against adultery, where Joseph did not want to sleep with Potiphar's wife and ran away. In Genesis 14:18-20, we have the law of the priesthood of Melchizedek and also tithing. In Genesis 17, we have the law of circumcision given to Abraham. In Genesis 21, verse 23, we have the law of oath-taking. In Genesis 25, verse 33, we have the law about the birthright of the firstborn son. In Genesis 28, verse 18, we see the law about anointing with oil. Also in Genesis 28, verse 20, we see the obligation of vows. In Genesis 31:32-35, we see the law against idolatry. Also in Genesis 31, verse 35, we see the law about ritual uncleanness. And in Genesis 38, verse 8, we see the law about raising up seed to a deceased person.
So when people tell you that the law of Yahweh did not exist until the days of Moses or Mount Sinai, they're wrong. It was codified in the days of Moses, written down. I've given you 20 different laws strictly from the book of Genesis. I would encourage you to go through them one at a time and test what I have said.